love journaling. Is this something that you do regularly?
So, no, not as often as I'd like.
Love the transparency.
Yeah. But I do believe so much in the power of like writing something, like just the transition of seeing a thought turn to reality through taking that thought, writing it down, coming back, reading it internally, reading it out loud, the repetition of that, and just what it manifests, like I believe so much in. So, I guess I just feel like I embrace tech. It's important. It's so essential in the world we live in. Yet I'm such a lover of like the pen and paper.
Yeah, it's grounding.
Yeah. It's so good.
It creates presence.
Yeah. As I said, no, not often. Like the one thing that I do work on being and intend to be most consistent on is just the gratitude piece of the journaling. Even if it's just taking a moment to like list 3 quick things that I feel grateful for. I think that just sets you off to be in like the right headspace for so many things.
Hello, all you beautiful people. Welcome to Tampa Bay Unlocked, the podcast where we dive into the dynamic world of real estate and business in the vibrant Tampa Bay area. Join us as we sit down with top agents and industry leaders who share their insights, strategies, and stories of success. Whether you're a seasoned professional or just starting out, our interviews will unlock the secrets of thriving in one of Florida's hottest markets. Get ready to be inspired and motivated by the experts shaping the future of Tampa Bay. Tune in and let's unlock the wisdom from our next guest. I have Carolina Grainger. She's done over $10 million this year.
Yes.
In real estate sales, remarkably, and done both sides of the deal, and your average days on market is like unbelievably low.
Thank you.
Welcome to the show.
Thanks.
Yes.
That was like a really big, amazing intro.
Well, thank you. Well, you're doing great, amazing things, and you've shown up in such bright ways. You're like a ball of just sunshine when you walk into a room.
Aww.
Yeah, I mean that.
Thanks.
I can feel it. I can feel it through the phone. You and I have had opportunities over the last few months to have a few conversations because of the devastation through hurricanes, and you've shown up in a big way for the Gulf Beaches office and that, so appreciate you doing all that. But let's dive into the world of Carolina a little bit. Like, how did you get here? How long have you been in real estate, and why?
Oh, okay. Well, so I've been in real estate. Actually, next April will be 10 years. Which is really cool because this year we were going into our client event. We do client events, and I was like just doing a little, I guess, just like reflecting naturally about what I wanted to talk about or what, and it just hit me like, holy moly, this has been a 10 years in the making thing in which every year I feel like there's new things, and almost like, not almost, truly 5 years ago, there was a huge like massive shift in which like, it was like a fresh start all over again. And so
we go back to 2014, 2015?
I guess, 2015.
Okay.
Yeah. And then prior to that, I was in wealth management. I worked in the banking world. And then prior to that, I was in lending. So it's kind of cool because it all connects. Like, ultimately, it's still like finance-based. However, I think that truly... Funny, we were kind of talking about relationships and like connecting. I think that really at the core of it for me has been the relationships piece, which is really like where I focus all my energy on. And what I think my business is really focused on is just building that connection with our clients and being there for them.
Well, I love that because I tell people all the time, you're not in the real estate business, you're in the people business.
Totally, 100%.
You're just offering a service of real estate to people.
It's so crazy, like what we do and how we help people and how we show up for people, and it's just such a privilege. And so I'll say that I feel sometimes like the cheesiest person in the world because I'm such a believer in all of those things, right? Like it is such a genuine privilege to show up, to be a part of like such a big purchase, such a big investment, such big decisions. And sometimes it's not an exciting decision, right? Sometimes it's like circumstance takes us to have to do this, or different things. And
absolutely. So from wealth management into real estate, what was that transition like, and why did you decide to become an agent?
Well, there's a lot of different life pieces. I think that happened. Ultimately, when I think about what I was doing in wealth management and the opportunity that real estate provided. So I was in the private bank at a big institution. We don't need to do that or necessarily talk about that. But ultimately what happened was there were times where I knew what the right thing to do was, but I still had to get like permission for it, right? It was like the most ridiculous thing that just made clear sense. But we still had to go through the loop or sometimes wait days to get responses for people who needed an answer yesterday.
Right.
That was wildly annoying. So that's, I think, one piece of it. There was also a lot of times when I realized I was spending a lot of time away from the people I cared for. So one of my big things is trying to be really authentic. And the year prior to that, I lost my dad. And he felt like I could not be there for him. And that was, I think, a real important thing for me to realize. Like, my son was so young at the time, so he's 15 now. But obviously 10 years ago, he was 5. And I was doing all these really fun things. I was going to, like, great dinners and doing fun things and getting paid to have a really fun life. But I wasn't showing up for the people who I really needed to show up for, and I wasn't there as often. So real estate gave me so much opportunity. It gave me the ability to be there for my family, to, I think, manage my time in a way that made sense for my family. Then it also gave me the autonomy to make the right decisions when they needed to be made without feeling like you had to go and like...
Yeah, well, you started your own business.
Yeah.
First working for someone else.
Yeah.
One, my condolences on your father, and I can see the inspiration that had on you. So was real estate on the table? Like, I'm always curious of like that decision making. So like you're going through this time in your life, you're feeling like you're having a great time, but you're being pulled away. When did it say, hey, I'm going to go get my license?
Well, it was not all me. At the time I was in a different relationship and he was in real estate. And that entire time I was like, you're in relationships, people trust you. Like, they come and bring millions to you and say, hey, what do I do with this money? You need to be in real estate. And there was a lot of just almost like encouraging to pursue that route. And then what was interesting is he was being pursued by a team in North Carolina to join us for an expansion. And we went up to North Carolina, and the agent, the head of the expansion team in North Carolina, looked at me and was like, why are you not a realtor? I want you to lead my Florida division. And I was like, not even in real estate. Like, that was not at all a thing or a thought, really, that I had truly considered. I think all my life I've just kind of trusted in people who have done really great for themselves and taken their mentorship. And when he looked at me and said, like, I want you to run my Florida division, being that I wasn't even licensed at the time, I was like, okay, clearly there's something you must see, and there's something here. Like, I know that real estate can lead and provide a big life for people. So I just trusted it. And on the ride home, I was like, okay, I'm going to go get my license. And I signed up I think I was in the car, and I signed up for the course. I went in like that following Monday, and I took a 1-week crash course, which is so crazy because I think that's like the one disservice to realtors is how easy it is for us to get our license. So I took a crash course, and I was licensed by the following Monday. Like, in 10 days, I got my real estate license.
Wow. So you said so many great things in there. One, following the lead of mentors in your life, right, through, I'm guessing, multiple careers, and just on a whim, and your quickness to make a decision. Right,
I'm
and act
a high
on
D.
Yes. So on the DISC scale, referring to being a quick decision maker, probably doesn't like to read long emails and
bullet points.
Well, I'm a subject line only. Like, if I can't figure it out by then, we have issues. That's my little joke about that. Okay, so. Wow, that's powerful. You made so what was that transition like? Okay, so you have your license, but you're still working in wealth management.
I was no longer at the bank then.
Okay, by that point you had already...
We were done.
Okay.
And then
So you were in this limbo.
Yeah, and I went from making a six-figure income to being negative, technically,
Right.
right?
Yep.
Because I now had to incur debt. Not debt, but I had
you
to
had
pay
expenses.
to get my license,
Yep.
to get my laptop, which was like my vehicle for business, right? So I went from making good money to now I don't have any income.
And at this time, how long were you living in Florida?
We moved here 2006.
Okay, so you had been here for some time.
Yeah.
So now, okay, so let's get to your license. You hung your license somewhere. It's your first year. What does that look like? Because I think that's always impactful for people to hear that first year.
Well, it was hard, and so I think the most important piece is that it took so much patience as a high achieving individual. Like, anything that I always do, I tend to find a way to excel in.
Mm-hmm.
And so going into real estate, it took about 6 months for me to, I think it took 4 months for me to get my first listing on my own like sphere. And then for it to come to close, it was like full circle was a total of 6 months from the time I got my license. So it took a while. And I think that was really a hard blow for me personally.
An ego check.
Oh, 100%. It was just like a little scary. It was a little all of those things. It's funny that you just referenced the disc because I also had mentioned the team in North Carolina. And so when I came in, I started on a team. And he was immediately like, I want you to do this.
So did you start on that team?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah. And I want you to grow our Florida division, and here I am going on recruiting appointments to get agents to join our team, and they'd ask me, what's your production? And here I am thinking nothing, right? So it was just a lot of awareness. I think that ultimately being able to understand that the goal of why I was there, and the goal was relationships and being able to have autonomy in how I did things. So taking you back, I really pounded on my sphere of influence. I was really lucky and fortunate to have that background in banking and had built that really strong relationship base. And to date, I would say that maybe still about 40% of my business comes from my relationships built while I was in wealth management. So I think it was a lot of understanding how to show up properly, how to navigate those relationships in the right way, getting out of my own way too. Sometimes I'm so caught up in the details and like I need to know everything before I dive into it, which is probably weird being a high D because...
Well, there's probably some counterbalance there, right? Because there's normally two strong behavioral styles,
right?
And but I love that you're saying that. Let's talk about getting out of your own way a little bit and wanting to know everything, because I'm sure there's some listening right now that can relate to that.
Yeah.
So many get into the business and they're afraid to open their mouth that they're an agent because they feel like they don't know enough because they haven't had a sale yet. Yeah. Imposter syndrome.
Oh, I still have imposter syndrome. Like I think. All the time. But I think that what people can genuinely, so this is, I think, really wisdom that's come over the past 10 years, and that what people can genuinely always appreciate is being honest, coming from a place of, I don't know, and being trustworthy, right? Like those are two things you can't buy, you only earn, right? Like you earn trust and you earn the ability to be in the room with people. And so going into it and saying, hey, yes, this is my first transaction and I'm going to work my butt off to make sure that it's the best transaction you've ever experienced. And so I think that the best way to get out of your own way is to be honest, genuine, know what you don't know, accept it, and make sure that you find out the answers, though. Don't just leave it at that. If any situation comes up, work really hard to learn from it, to get the right answers for your people. And once they trust you to know that you're going to do right by them, I think that's when, like, the rest is
trust
just
is
amazing.
Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. I love that. You're dropping a lot of great nuggets here. Okay, so that first year, 6 months till you get your first closing.
Yeah.
Sounds like, right?
Yeah.
And
that
so,
I earned, right? Like
yeah.
my own closing.
Yeah, right. And which is really good for people to hear because you just said, you came from this world of high success. You knew how to handle business. You knew how to do relationships and have conversations. And yet still,
Yeah.
there was a runway of time before you really start to catch your stride.
And I think a big part of it, going back to like ego, I think we mentioned ego. And I think the biggest thing is we are so sometimes either uncomfortable to make the ask or we are unwilling to bother people, right? And so like my coach and I were talking just last week and he was like, so now I'm in a place where I constantly am showing up from a place of gratitude to our clients. And he said, okay, so that's great. You do pop buys. That's great. You love on your people. That's great. You do these events. And that's great that you thank them. So when was the last time that you said, hey, specifically real estate related, what is the one goal you're looking to achieve this year that I can help you with?
It's powerful.
And 10 years into it, I mean, I still am not the best at it because I think ultimately it comes down to that fear of we have built this idea, like the rejection, right? That fear that they're going to be like, oh, great, here she is sales pitching me. Or, but ultimately, I think at the end of the day, it's like, what a disservice to our clients, to those people who have trusted us, to not show up and say, hey, like, what is it that I can do for you as the expert? I've earned that ability to be in your home. I've earned the ability to have these conversations and this like relationship with you over the years. How can I really show up to help you? And so
when you have had that conversation, what has the feedback been?
Oh, well, it's crazy because what it opens up to, right? Sometimes it's a, nope, we're good. And then I think it's almost like planting that seed, right? And then a few months down the road, they give you a call and it's like, hey, so my family and I are considering almost like building a compound. Like, are you familiar with land? We'd like to maybe do a generational housing thing with my family. And so is that something that's possible? So it just opens up opportunity to conversations. So, and then sometimes it's like, actually, yeah, I need to sell in the next month or so.
You're saying something great there because you're coming from the place of I like to give, but it's so important to come in with the ask. And Gary Vaynerchuk wrote a great book called Jab, 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 Right Hook.
Yeah.
Right? Like give, but we have to be okay with the ask.
Right.
And yes, planting seed, even in that moment of them saying, no, we're good, is not rejection.
Right.
Because you planted it in their reticular activating system in their brain.
Totally.
And now anytime they think, they know that's who I go to.
Or even just they may not have the need, but then that day at lunch or a week later, they hear somebody has a need for example, I mean, unrelated to real estate, but I just heard someone say, oh, I'm keen for a wedding venue.
Yeah.
And in my mind is like, I just had a conversation with somebody about a wedding venue. Let me make that connection, right?
Yes.
So it's like, sometimes they may not necessarily need the help, but by you putting it out there, they're aware, and then you get introduced to somebody who you really make an impact.
All because of one sentence.
Because you got out of your own way.
One sentence can change everything.
Yeah.
I think that's really, really powerful, and I'm glad that we're talking about this because that limiting belief of I don't want to bother them, I don't want to come off salesy. It's not when you're coming from a place of advisory and you've gained wisdom over these 10 years. So, of course, why would I not offer my services because I know I can help you?
Yeah, and I mean, even as we're talking right now, I'm like, I need to go call everyone and ask because it is such a disservice.
And what a great time, and by the time this comes out, of like beginning of a new year.
Totally. What are your goals this year? Let's talk about your goals. And sometimes the goals may not have to do with necessarily with real estate, but that's where us as advisors can find a way to help them through real estate, right? And maybe it's that their kids are going off to college. Maybe it's that they, unfortunately, with everything that happened in our world just these past few months, they may need to make an improvement or an addition to the home or whatever. And they're thinking this isn't possible, but we can show them a way to make it possible. And that's really the coolest thing. So,
well, connecting as agents, and even in the area, you have connections to so many different things, and just being a connector and opening up those relationships for other people is a way to provide value. And
Yeah,
then you become that
totally.
go-to. Like our Rolodexes, if we still had them, our phone books are thick.
Yeah. Although I do still believe that Rolodexes in like journaling is so important, like pen and paper, and not just having everything in
Yes.
your phone.
I believe that. I love journaling. Is this
Yeah.
something that you do regularly?
So no, not as often as I'd like.
Love the transparency.
Yeah. But I do believe so much in the power of like writing something, like just the transition of seeing a thought turn to reality through taking that thought, writing it down, coming back, reading it internally, reading it out loud, the repetition of that, and just what it manifests. Like, I believe so much in. So, yeah, I guess I just feel like I embrace tech. It's important. It's so essential in the world we live in. Yet I'm such a lover of like the pen and paper.
Yeah, it's grounding.
Yeah, it's so good.
It creates presence.
Yeah.
You
And
have to be.
as I said, no, not often. Like the one thing that I do work on being and intend to be most consistent on is just the gratitude piece of the journaling. Even if it's just taking a moment to like list 3 quick things that I feel grateful for, I think that just sets you off to be in like the right headspace for so many things.
It's amazing when we put out that energy, how it
Yeah.
comes back,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's
totally. And I don't know. I feel like I come from such a wild background. Like I'm not from this country.
Where are you from?
I was born in Mexico.
Oh,
I came here at the age of 3. I remember like when you have like those like really young childish memories or childhood memories. One of the memories that's like a very core memory is like being in what was like my kindergarten class, and like in my head I thought I was speaking English, but I totally wasn't. Like, God knows what I was saying, but in my head I was speaking English. Now that my 2-year-old is like talking and sentencing, and sometimes she says like the most random gibberish, I'm like, that's probably exactly what I sounded like.
that's a funny memory.
Yeah, it's such a like, yep, you don't know what you're doing sometimes. But you think you do. And one of the biggest things that I unfortunately do fall into is I tend to be so like confident in the way that I approach things sometimes that I don't know, it's like such a balance between this whole idea of like fake it till you make it, but then also having this need to always ensure that I'm doing the right thing, right?
Yeah. Well, I think confidence is half the battle,
Yeah.
right?
Of course.
Like being confident in owning what you say.
Yeah.
Because if it's only there's when working with people, they don't need to believe you. They need to believe that you believe you.
Well, and also, I guess as I just said that, a thought I had is, okay, so here's the thing. It's not so much fake it till you make it. What I'm 100% confident in is that I will do the right thing and I will find the right answer. That I have no doubt in. I may not know the answer now, but I, with like 1,000% confidence, know that I will find the right answer. And so maybe that's where that comes from. So don't fake it till you make it. Like, believe that you can make it. It might be the better way of.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. And I think, but eluding confidence when, in an example, you have 0 sales,
Yeah.
right? But if you walk around like you have 0 sales, you won't attract one.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't know that that's faking, but it's confidence in knowing that
I won't be there forever. Like confidence in my background, right? Confidence in knowing that anything I put my mind to, I tend to excel in. So that was the driving force of me being able to communicate that, I think.
Shifting gears just slightly, what's
Yeah.
the most important thing that you've learned about building relationships?
Being honest and being like truthful. I think that saying what you say you're going to do is so important. There are so many times. And ultimately, the way I feel like I've learned most is thinking back to when I feel like relationships have been broken on the opposite side, right? Like on the receiving end. So when is it that I felt the most disappointment, right? And it's when someone said that they were going to do something and they didn't do it. When someone seemed to be really genuine but really didn't care, or did something that made me feel like they didn't really care. So I think that for me is why it's so important that I intend to always show up as authentic as possible and genuinely be aware of what I don't know and communicate that, right? Let them know I'm unaware, but I'll make sure I find out. So I guess at least just trying to prevent what I felt whenever these situations happen, prevent for me to be the creator of those feelings on someone else.
It's a beautiful way to look at it and think that you take experiences and when you feel negative and make sure and learn from them to make sure that that's not
passed on.
right.
Yeah. And I mean, it may be, I don't know if it's the right way because it's obviously like focused on me, but it's like that idea of the golden rule, right? Treat others the way you want to be treated. But then it's like,
Do you know the platinum rule?
Treat others the way they want to be treated, right? Yeah. And so I guess that's it, right? Like I'm still growing and in a very much of a like learning curve always. And so that idea came from me, but what's ultimately the best idea of relationships, maybe I still have to uncover that.
Well, we're continuously learning, and that's the greatest part about this journey and being your own boss,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that this is your craft,
Yeah.
and you get to decide on how you're going to do it.
It's so cool.
It is so
It is
cool.
like so amazing.
And the fact that you're sitting here in a growth mindset is what matters most.
Yeah. Yeah. Like there's so much to learn. There's so much knowledge. There's so many different ways in which we can like, and what's really cool is you can always pivot.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to pivot. It's okay to think, hey, this is my journey. And it's okay if that's your journey today. And maybe in 2 years you want to go a totally different route and it has nothing to do with the first one. That's okay too, right?
Who do you think has had the biggest impact on your real estate career?
Oh gosh. It's not a one person thing. I feel like so
I only bring that up because you mentioned mentors.
yeah, oh my God, so many. But in 2019 I went to an event that's now turned into a pretty big thing. So Wendy Papasan. I think it started with Wendy Papasan.
And were you always KW?
Always. I've always been KW. So I don't believe in like chasing shiny objects.
Mm-hmm.
I believe like KW is a great organization with a lot of a great foundation. And if you can plug into that, like it's amazing. And one of the things that drew me to KW, kind of unrelated, but is just like the amazing thing that I've always believed in. It's like the power of being able to give back and what you can achieve through what you can accomplish. And to know that like that is at the core of our belief system was pretty cool, you know? So it's, so in 2019, Wendy Papasan and some of her girlfriends got together and did what was the very first seminar for what now has become Her Best Life. I don't know if you're familiar with
I've
it.
heard
They
of
have
it. Yep.
a podcast,
Yep.
but the very first one was called Amplify, and that like transformed my life in so many ways.
How so? Just like 60-second. What was amplifying about that event?
It being authentic to yourself, recognizing that you can't force things to happen, and you kind of just can't be a victim. Mm. So that like just was like monumental for me. It really shifted. It shifted my life. Like my whole life took a huge transition, which is why I said about 5 years ago I restarted everything. Everything. Like I was in a marriage. I'm no longer in. I mean, there was a huge change and shift in relationships in so many things.
That event pulled back the cover on some things for you and just
on authenticity,
and just
really.
to get real.
Yeah, yeah. And ultimately, living your life for yourself and not anyone else, right? Like, we have this ability through real estate to do such amazing things in business. And what good is it if at the end of the day you feel like you're not being authentic to yourself? Like, you can make tons of money. You can give away a ton of money. And all of that still has at the core some of you in it, right? But if you sit back at the end of the day and you're like, I am living my life for someone else and not truly showing up authentic to what I need, or, you know, it's just then you can't really give. You show up broken. Mm-hmm. You hurt relationships because you're not being truly authentic. So
You probably are more tired and energy is sucked out of you than given, right? That's a big thing I'm always looking at is the energy meter. What's giving me energy versus taking away?
yeah, yeah. Or what am I fleeing to avoid this, right?
Well, yeah, in so many avenues, of
Yeah.
course. And that's a beautiful thing for you to identify that and just share that story that even within this ecosystem of real estate, you were able to reinvent yourself again.
Oh my God, yeah, 100%.
And what did that do for you in your business?
Well, I think it just allowed me to understand what my boundaries are. So this past quarter, I don't want this to be misinterpreted. I just this past quarter fired 4 clients, 5-ish, when I just chose to not take on. And that is a crazy place to be in, right? Like to know that you're in a place where you can genuinely show up and not feel like I need to make this work regardless. I'm going to like do whatever it takes because I need to make X amount of dollars, right? And I don't know, I feel like I kind of lost my train of thought. But
No, you were saying coming from a place of empowerment.
yeah, and so I think that understanding your boundaries, right? Understanding what's really important to me and how I show up for others. And there are times where I have done like the craziest things. I've literally, at one time, I remember I took my assistant and there was a lady who was like, had spinal surgery. She couldn't do anything. She couldn't lift a finger. And she was really going through a really tough time financially. And that's where it's like doing the right thing by people. Rather than sending her a moving company, or she was really, there was a lot of like hurt you could tell there, a lot of trust issues. So I said, let us come, we will pack your home for you. And so I'm willing to do things, but whenever people come from a place of like, this is what you have to do, and like they're just like coming, like it's just our values don't align. Mm-hmm. Like I've been able to identify my boundaries and understand like who I'm willing to do like anything for, and the people who you're just like, you know what, we're just not in alignment, and I probably would be losing myself in the process if I continued this relationship. So
no, it's so powerful. I'm so glad you said that because it's knowing that place exists for those who don't feel like they're there right now.
Oh yeah.
Right, and getting there and then holding true to it and setting a standard.
Yeah.
My big thing for 2025 is setting standards high for our office and every area of my life. And so for you to set the standard of we're not in alignment.
Yeah.
And I'm in a place where I don't need your business. I get to choose who I work with.
Yeah.
And at this moment, the tribe has spoken.
You know, and here's the thing, right? Like, it's just like, that's why I'm like, I do not want that to be misunderstood. Like, I want to help. Like, I come from a place of like, I want to genuinely like do what's best for people.
You're a professional and you have standards and a process. And if someone comes in and tries to change your process, then it's like going to the doctor and them telling you, hey, you need to do this, this, and this. This is going to help you get healthy. And you're like, I'm not going to do any of that. I'm going to do it my way. Well, why are you here?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Well, and that's it, right? Like, it's so wild. You have clients who you go into it, they trust you from day one. They trust your knowledge. They know that you are there for a reason. You go through the process. They're showing up constantly in gratitude for you. And it's not about me. It's just like they appreciate what you're doing and the expertise you bring to the table. And those people are going to rave and constantly continue to help your business grow. If you're sitting across from someone who just, you know that no matter how far back I bend over, no matter what I have to say, you're going to find a reason to not appreciate that.
That creates friction and resistance, and then doesn't allow your process to flow. And those transactions are more difficult. You probably don't.
The energy you spend.
You probably don't achieve the best results as you would when you can work in your realm and energy flows freely.
Yeah.
And then listen, right? Yeah. Then you can sell. I can sell your home faster for more money with less resistance, and we're all going to sleep good at night.
Yeah.
Versus the other.
Yeah.
Like
100%.
Trekking through the jungle. looking out for all the poisonous snakes everywhere.
It's so wild.
I don't even know where that analogy comes from. I whip these out of nowhere.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like, there's that snake.
Don't bite me.
Yeah.
But then you're walking around in fear. And how well do we operate when we're in that state?
Or like just having the feeling that you have to put on like guards and like armor to have a conversation with someone. So part of our process is and trust me, like I've had situations like that and I've learned from them, which is why I'm at a place now where I'm like,
that's what, it takes, you have to go through that to learn.
Sure. Like it's not worth it for so many reasons. The stress it invokes on me, like the amount of like just friction that I feel. So part of it is I have a process, and at least with every client, at least once a week, you will hear from me. We have a day, like a dedicated day, Tuesday check-ins are with my sellers. And like, there's been times when you have these and like, you're dreading it, right? Rather than eat the frog, you're like, I'm going to let the frog sleep today. I'm going to not necessarily go there right now.
I don't want to taste that frog.
Yeah, not yet. Yeah. And so you put on this armor and you're like hyping yourself up for these conversations, and all the energy spent in that, it's just not worth it.
No, terrible. Because then if it's sitting in your subconscious, wherever it is in your mind. Yeah. I love that we can, thank you for showing up the way you have today so far. It's wonderful. No, because I can really tell we're connected. And the mind piece is so important. And energy. You know, I had a great conversation with Monica Crawford. It's not about it's how your business makes you feel. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's super important.
Totally. Yeah.
And that aligns with our core values.
Right.
So, lives worth living, businesses worth owning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Careers worth having.
And as you said that, like inevitably, I don't even know why. So part of like my cheesiness is I'm super emotional, like so emotional. And as you said that, like I felt myself getting emotional because I have a 15-year-old now, right? Like whether I like it or not, he's watching. And the way that I show up to my clients, the way that I show up as a leader, the way that I show up and the conversations he hears me have with people, even the way that I prepare for those conversations is impacting him.
Mm-hmm. And what you say when you hang up the phone.
All of it, mm-hmm. Right? And so what kind of example am I setting for him if I'm saying I'm willing to compromise my standards for money? Because that's really what it would come down to, right? I mean, in my mind it is, sure. Because I don't think that I'm going to impact that person. Right? Like, I'm not going to do anything for that person that's going to make them feel like, wow, like she helped us. She made a difference in our life. I am just another widget in their life that they're pushing around, right? And for me, I think that ultimately, like, we talk in our world about what's our big why. And I think in just probably in most worlds that are business and like business owners, and I think my big why genuinely is making an impact on people, like having the ability to make an impact on someone.
And because I wanted to look at the flip side, we're talking about those that are draining us. On the flip side, when you get to work with someone, right?
It's amazing.
Your cup is overflowing, energy is like the gratitude. It's like,
and you attract more of it.
The sun comes out. It's so beautiful. There's rainbows everywhere.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yes. And so it's funny because I don't think that this is true, but like our logo in Sunrise Home Group, our logo is a sun, but the sun is like a sunflower. And at one point I heard that like sunflowers turn to each other for energy when there isn't like sunlight. I don't think it's true because I fact checked it.
Did you fact check it? It's not. I was about to here
go
live.
Go for it. I mean,
Chat GPT this right now.
When it didn't check out the way I heard it, I was like, whatever. I'm going with it. I'm going with it. I'm not gonna like second guess it. But
do sunflowers turn to themselves when they need energy? I should have done the voice mode so it talked to us.
It's so funny.
No.
Yeah. Thanks, Ryan.
Once mature, sunflowers typically stop tracking the sun and face east to attract pollinators, as the warmth of the morning sun makes them more inviting to insects. They always depend on external sunlight rather than turning to themselves for energy. Either way. Sunflowers are cool.
So here's the deal, though, which I think this is a great example of, like, there are things that I believe in, mm-hmm. and brings me joy.
Yes.
It lets me show up in a way, right?
We don't
So
need
whenever people want to like attack my joy, I'm like, you know what? Facts
Sorry.
of the
Sorry,
internet.
Carolina. Yeah.
You are not going to attack my joy right
just
now.
ignore that one. When you see two sunflowers looking at each other, you just know.
I am going to take a picture of that, and like it will forever be everywhere.
You're like, look.
Yeah.
Look.
What you may not see is me at the bottom and somebody else like twisting the stems so that they're facing each other. But
oh, that's too good.
Yeah, but truly, right? Yeah, it's just like how you show up, the energy, what it attracts is so like.
Yeah. So how big is your are important referrals for you?
They're big. I mean, so when we look at my business, over 90% of my business is past clients or referrals. I work primarily listings. I really only focus on the buyers that come from those listings, whether it's that the seller is looking to buy or that, organically through the proper marketing, you're able to help another family. But if it wasn't for referrals, I would have no production. I would have like maybe $1 million. And I wouldn't just because of by nature who I am.
Right, but you're saying if you were to stop doing.
Yeah. If the relationships were not there, I would be a very different agent.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that's why it's so important.
Well, it's great because I've sat here and talked to agents who do all the things in terms of hardcore farming or cold calling or all the other, like there's 30 some ways you can get business, right?
Right.
And so, and I come from a place of relationship. So I love that you're saying that because that's the way I like to do business is through that because it just feels better. The trust is there, the establishment, the referrals. I also come from a financial backing world where we couldn't advertise and referrals were everything. If I didn't get a referral after a meeting, I did not have another meeting.
Right.
So just coming from that mindset, you really, 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 really appreciate them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the core of what we do, right? Like relationships and referrals is how I am able to, in essence, feed my family.
So what's next for you?
Funny you should ask. My husband and I were talking about this morning. So I'm very much still in like a rediscovery phase. There's been a lot of noise since my transition 5 years ago that this past year, 2024, although there was a lot of loss and sadness, was also a huge year of growth and release for me, which is really, really exciting. There's a lot of freedom and liberation that has come this year. And so 25 is really for me a year to be able to embrace and fully manifest what I want. So I definitely want to look into a few different business ventures outside of real estate. I'm just really excited to set the right alignment in my team, have the right processes and systems in place so that then I can truly focus on growing these other venues that I'm excited about and being able to just show up and serve others in the best way. That I think is ultimately what's next. I always come back to this like checking point of what's my purpose and am I doing something to fulfill it? And if I want to make an impact and if I want to help people outside of serving families through the transaction of buying and selling real estate, I think that there's an opportunity to serve agents, to serve other people. I just need to dedicate myself and properly align myself so that I can do that as well.
Time block, 411, GPS,
all of it,
all the things, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's beautiful. I love that. And it's cool to see that you're in a place of growth. I can tell you come from a big place of growth, thinking about the future and the more impact that you'll have on people. And it's amazing to be in your world and learn more about you and watch all this. You've done phenomenal. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If for those amazing fans that are still here watching us,
that I haven't bored to death yet.
No, you've brought energy. This has been a very entertaining conversation. What's one word they could comment below in the comments so that we know that the real OGs are here still?
OGs. I don't know. Sunflower.
I was thinking that too. Yes, I was waiting for it. It had to be your word.
Or just the emoji.
Just
sunflower.
the emoji or sunflower, whatever you got. For those that are still here, please comment below. Carolina, if people want to get in touch with you, how can they find you?
Call me, 951-201-8144. Always.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's been a
Thank
joy.
you.
Comment sunflower below. Share with a friend. Invite someone to come watch. Go watch another episode. Like it. Comment. Do all the fun things. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and we'll see you here on the next one.